Welcome to Activate, your next level mindset podcast. I am your host, Coach Paul Ibarra, helping you reframe your mindset and activate your purpose so that you can live your life of freedom. Yo, and welcome back to another episode here on Activate Your Next Level Mindset podcast. I am your host, Coach Paul Ibarra, and what we do here is we help you reframe your mindset by activating your mind into new levels and being able to get you to that next place so that you can be set free. And so tonight, I know that I've been on a few podcasts today and we've had some pop-up podcasts and it's just been totally awesome. But tonight I have a very special guest, Tanya Norwood, coming in from Jersey. And we had a conversation a few days ago that was just totally rock star. And so she is part of Legal Shield. She has her own business and she helps individuals like yourself in finances and investments and all those different types of things. And I'm probably butchering that because there's probably other things that she does. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read her bio to you just so you know that who she is. All right. So Tanya is a businesswoman, an author and speaker, and she has been empowering for over 30 years. As a connector, she understands knowing where to tap into resources is invaluable. And you know how we rock value around this podcast. We do everything in the spirit of excellence, or at least try to, right? As a survivor diagnosed with a chemical imbalance in her brain, Tanya writes and speaks about being an overcomer in life. Whom God sets free is free indeed. And we know that comes from John 8:36. And so as a businesswoman, she connects individuals, families, business owners to the justice system because our lives matter. What we are creating matters, and access is the great equalizer. Tanya seeks to be more than successful, to be significant by empowering individuals to have financial freedom themselves. Her philosophy is to provide the most value possible to those whom she is divinely connected to. And so we're going to get into this conversation of what she calls her love letter. And so I'm going to bring Tanya up on stage and we're going to get into this conversation. So Tanya, thank you so much for joining us here on Activate Your Next Level Mindset podcast. Let us know where you're coming in from. I've already mentioned Jersey. Let us know a little bit about what you do. And let's dive into this whole conversation so that people can understand and I can be a lot more clear about what the love letter is that we were talking about.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Coach Paul. And thank you so much for inviting me this evening to speak to your audience. And I'm excited to share with them as we dialogue about the love letter, what I affectionately call the love letter, which is around estate planning, because people don't really like to talk about that. And we're going to, get into that more this evening. But I like to affectionately call the love letter. And it's all around estate planning and just having things in order.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so like we were talking the other day, we were talking about, shifting that mindset. And so there's a lot of, I know for me, like, I don't really, sometimes I don't really understand logistics and I don't understand numbers. I don't understand spreadsheets and all the stuff, but my wife does. Right. But I'm at a place in my life where I know that I need to be more educated and have more knowledge in what is going on in our love letter. Right. So when we, because I'm not getting any younger. We just had our first grandbaby a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations.
And yes. Thank you so much. And so we're in this space in time now where it's like, I am where we've got to really prepare for what we have and how do we leave it? What do we do? How does all of that work? And so I'm just so blessed and so thankful that you have come on to the broadcast today to help us understand more about what this love letter is, how everything works, and then also being able to offer your services to my audience and being able to, connect with some more people. So wherever you want to start, as far as the love letter and just the whole logistics behind it, we would definitely love to hear.
So yes, as you were talking, a lot of things start rolling around in my head, and so I'll start here in saying that I am not an attorney, and I am connect. I'm a connector, and I'm connecting individuals in with the attorney who is proficient and the expert in doing the love letter. And when we talk about the love letter, Paul, we're really talking about 4 documents that you want to have in place. You want to have the will in place, your standard will. You want to have the living will, and then your healthcare power of attorneys, healthcare and medical power of attorney. And when you talk about mind shift, shifting the mindset, a lot of people don't like to talk about estate planning. They don't like to talk about the will, because if I talk about the will, and heaven forbid we do the will, now we're going to die. Well, no, we're talking about now, we're going to die anyway. Okay. If the pandemic
Yes.
didn't show us anything, is that life is very fragile. And just like that, it can be gone. And so if that's the case, and we knew that before the pandemic, but if that's the case, then we should prepare.
Mm,
We should prepare because we want to do things decent and in order, right? Yes and yes. And
absolutely.
so when we put the will in place, it's why I like to say why we are cognizant. Like I'm cognizant, you are cognizant, your wife is cognizant, my husband is cognizant. While we are aware, with all of our faculties operating properly, with the help of the questionnaire, because we make it very simplistic. That's the other thing. A lot of times people think, oh, estate planning, and they see the documents and they are intimidating looking. But for us to prepare them is very simplistic because we want them to complete. And so through answering some questions, capturing information, the attorneys are able then to put the will in place. And it simply just denotes for our family what our wishes are, so that when we die, at that time, it's an emotional time. I'm sure you've experienced death. We've experienced
Hmm.
death recently. My brother-in-law on Christmas Eve died.
Mm,
But because things were in order, it made it so much easier to move through the process of what needed to be done. Because when you have an emotional loss, and then things are not in order, it makes it very chaotic. And you and I talked about when things are not in order, and say it's a parent and their siblings, and there's more than one, then that situation that should be bringing people together
mm.
now can potentially tear them apart. And while we know that we are to forgive and walk in forgiveness, it doesn't always happen. So when we have things in order, it just makes it easier for everything to just flow and people to come together versus being torn apart, maybe sometimes never ever to be able to be reunited.
Wow, I love everything that you're saying, because it's so true. A few years ago, before the pandemic in 2019, in October, matter of fact, the day after my birthday, um, my my best friend passed away from cancer, and thank God I was able to be there for him his last 3 months, my wife and I, and helping him through that transition. But there was no order in place. There was no structure, and so as you were talking about just the division and all of that, there was so much of that, during the funeral and all these things, and I'm like, why do people act this way? But you made so much sense that it causes division because now somebody else has to take care of something, other family members have to jump in and finance it. Well, I got to pay for this and you got to pay, and it's this ball of confusion, it's this
Yeah,
ball of frustration. And
yes,
I just love the fact of being able to put things in order,
yes,
because that's going to relieve a spouse that's left behind, the children that are left behind, the grandchildren that are left behind, whatever that may look like, and it relieves that pressure. And so, have you ever had to literally, like, and I know that you have, but what tips would you have for anybody that's listening today or on the replay or on Anchor podcast? How would you help somebody shift their mindset from, you know, How do you work with that person when they're like, I don't really want to talk about death. I don't really want to talk about this. That's just taboo, right? What tips could you help somebody to say, listen, this is basically, we have to do this, right? So how do you transition somebody from that mindset into, you know what, that makes total sense. Let's move forward.
So, Coach Paul, it's just reframing,
Mm.
reframing our thought process. And sometimes, oftentimes, we have to ask some tough questions. And here's the tough question: do you love your family?
Whew. Yeah.
Do you love your family? And the answer is absolutely yes, I love my family. So when I love my family, then I want to put things in order. Like my husband and I, we have two daughters. I'm in a blended family. And then we have three grandbabies. Well, my word tells me as a believer, a Christian, that I'm to leave an inheritance for my children's children. Well, we cannot do that if we don't write it down.
Mm.
And so, again, it's just about let's think about it differently. Let's think about the life that we're going to extend to our family versus thinking about death. Let's think about the life that we're going to extend to our families. I was talking to a young lady maybe a month or so ago, and she said that when her mother died, unbeknownst to her and her siblings, her mother had put everything in order, and they got a call. And at first they were confused because they didn't know what was going on. But as the attorney spoke with them, the financial person spoke with them, they were so relieved to know that their mother had put everything in place, and all they, so that the finances for the services for the funeral were in place, so the things they knew to do afterwards were in place, and it actually gave them a hand up in life for their lives, because mother was gone, but they were still needing to live. And so helping, helping, helping. So again, it's just all in how we frame it. And we can reframe anything if we choose to. And so we're helping folks. So that's the will. We talk about the living will. So do you want to resuscitate or you don't want to resuscitate? Listen, I've struck in my bio, you read about the chemical imbalance, and I missed a
Hmm.
lot of time from 18 until 40. I missed a lot of time out of my life. So now I'm asking God for 120, like Moses.
Come
Okay.
on.
Like Moses, 120, good eyesight and in good health, right? And so here's the thing. That's what I'm asking God. But if things go terribly sideways, do I want to resuscitate or do I not want to resuscitate? Because I don't want to be on a machine and the machine is keeping me alive for months and weeks. Years. I don't want to be in a facility and I'm just in the corner somewhere. That is not the abundant life that he's called us to in the back half of John 10:10. And so when I write that down in the living will, the advanced directive, what my wishes are, then my husband and our children or grandchildren know that's what Nana wanted. And they can abide by that, even though it might be a little difficult, but that's what Nana wanted. And they now know what to do. And so, again, it makes it so much easier for our loved ones. And when we talk about the power of attorneys, the healthcare power of attorney, the medical power of attorney, you and I were talking about this. My husband's from the Midwest.
Hmm.
His father took ill. And so in that moment, our lives did not have to get disrupted. So a tip, do you want your life to totally get disrupted because you receive a phone call and things have to be dealt with? Well, if you don't, then put things in order. Being proactive is a tip, being proactive. And so when my husband received that call, because the medical power of attorney was in place, he was able to speak with the doctor over the phone and listen to what was going on. And they were able to come up with the plan and everything for his father. And because there was enough family in the Midwest, he did not have to get on that plane immediately to go deal with that. And that helped us tremendously because we're living our life. We're not ready for just interruption to happen. And it gives us the opportunity to now know things are occurring and to put in a plan. So when he did need to go, it was an easier transition for us. And the same thing with our finances, the financial power of attorney. Listen, things are opening up. I don't know about you there in Colorado, but today it was a beautiful day. I was out and about.
Mhm.
People were out and about. Spring break is here. People are about to go on vacation. And someone you would not want bringing in your mail or home sitting while you're away or walking your pet, when you don't write it down, have that financial power of attorney in place. You're not dying. You're just not able to take care of your finances on your own. Someone that you wouldn't want house sitting could be taking care of your finances. And here's the thing, they could misappropriate your funds. So that could be a very serious problem. Or we know the story in the Bible about the talents. They don't misappropriate your funds. They just don't do anything.
Mm.
That becomes problematic too. It's not that they didn't have the money, but they just didn't do anything with it to make sure that this is getting taken care of, that's getting taken care of. So again, the big tip is to put things in order proactively while you're cognizant and aware. And then when things happen, all people need to do is go to the documents, start reading, or with our service, if they don't understand the documents, they're able to tap into the attorney and say, can you explain this to me? And he or she will explain it step by step in detail, what needs to be done, how it needs to be done.
Wow. So what I'm hearing is you're not only helping people relieve the responsibility and the pressure, but you're also bringing peace to the family as they're still alive and those that are left behind.
Yes.
And that's a major, major blessing. It's almost like a ministry to be able to come in and say, listen, and I, I love what you said. Like, do you care if somebody dies? Do you care? And it's like, whoa, that's kind of a blow, but it's one of those pain points that have to be talked about. It's like the elephant that's in the room. It's like nobody wants to talk about it, but we have to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And so I know that pressure from my best friend. I had never had to deal with anything like that, but 5 minutes after he passed, just talking about the whole resuscitation thing, I was literally working for the school district and I was on break, thank God. And I got a phone call and I looked at the number and I'm like, I think I need to answer this. So I answered the phone and they said, is this Paul? I said, sure. And they said, this is, such and such from the hospital. And I already knew. I said,
right,
what's going on? And so I went to my boss. Hey, my brother is, he's on basically on deathbed, but they were trying to resuscitate him for 30 something minutes. They waited 20 minutes to call me. And I'm like, I'm the power of attorney. Why did you guys wait so long? Getting there, long story short, everything is happening. And I just finally told them, just stop, just stop. I mean, if you've been trying to resuscitate him for 20 minutes, he's gone.
right.
Like he's gone. And so 5 minutes after that, then I'm getting all these people like the chaplain and stuff like, okay, what's the process? What do you want to do? And, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I didn't ask for this responsibility. Like
Right.
he was my best friend. Like, can I just process this? And I literally told him that, will you allow me to process this for like 5 minutes? Let me try to find his family. I didn't really know them.
Right.
So all of this, and then it comes down to where I believe that the decision that the family made to me was the wrong decision. But at the same time, I didn't have no power over that. I was only power of attorney medically. So
Okay.
it was these things. And I'm looking at that. And one of my other best friends, when he saw him in the hospital laid up, he had told me, he doesn't look good. You need to get all of his stuff in order. Like have him do a power of attorney, have all of that, because his family's not going to help him. Like it's just you. And I didn't really realize that because I didn't want to hear that. Honestly, I was like, this is my friend, this is my brother. But at the same time, once it happened, I'm like, man, if things were different, we could have at least had closure. Like,
Right.
All of these different things, because there was so much confusion and things were out of order. And so I love what you're doing because it's such a powerful thing. And I just honestly, I didn't realize that's where the conversation was even going to go, but it made me realize, oh my gosh. And that's why I always look at like God's wink, right? God is winking down going, you need to hear this information.
Right.
because you've been through it, but now you're getting older and you have to take care of everything else and and leave those things behind. And so it's such a powerful, powerful thing that you're doing. And so I'm going to bring you back up on the main screen. Let us know where we can find you, so that people can connect with you, because obviously to be able to help them, there would have to be that more of a connection level, to get into all the logistics and all of that good stuff. So help us understand where we can find you, website link, all of that good stuff.
Okay. And do you have a moment? Because I did want to speak to something that you said.
Absolutely. Sure.
So this is really critical. And when you said it, so you were in the hospital, someone else came to visit and said, he doesn't look good. You want to get things in order. Here's the problem. That's not the time to get things in order.
Right.
When he's in the hospital or she's in the hospital, things don't look good.
Mm-mm.
That's not the time. Like
Not the
we talked
time.
about, you talked about earlier, like people don't want to talk about it. So when is the right time? But the right time is not when the person is in the hospital. That is not the focus. And the person may not even be strong enough to be able to do the necessary things that need to be done. So as I share the how to get in touch with me, what I want to say to folks is don't delay, because what I find is people hear the information, it makes sense to them. They're like, yes, I really should do this, but they delay.
Mm-hmm.
And when we delay, it can be very costly. Could be costly to our loved ones that we leave behind. If I delay and I die, it doesn't really impact me because I'm not here. But my
Right.
loved ones that I say I love and I care about, think about the parent who has disabled children, a child or two. This is a real life scenario, and doesn't have those documents in place. And she is the caregiver while she's older, in her 80s or so, and the children could be in their 50s, 60s, and nothing is written down. And
Mm.
now she dies. What happens to those children because there are some disabilities in place?
Right.
What happens to them? What happens to the family who has 3 or 4 or 5 children? And that's realistic. And it wasn't written down who would take the children, all of them together.
Mm.
I've been in foster care, and your twin doesn't go with you oftentimes. It was just two of us. So, what if you have 3 or 4 or 5 children?
Wow.
So don't delay, because it can be done very affordable. That's the other thing, Paul, I wanted to bring out. A lot of times people think about those documents and they think it's going to cost a lot. Well, it really does cost a lot. We're talking about documents and your life plans and wishes. But with our service, we do it, and we do it very affordably, because we understand that just like that, things can change, and why it's so important to have things in place and not to have costs be a factor that prohibits people from moving forward. So that's very important too.
That's so good, because you are absolutely right. Because when I basically stepped in to help him, I hadn't, we had seen each other, but we weren't hanging out daily, and I didn't know that he even had this condition. I had no clue. He thought it was a gallbladder issue. I took him to the emergency. 6 hours later, he's in a room getting, already talking about chemo. And
Mm.
we were both, I mean, he was like, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know what to think, So it was like, boom, boom, boom. So in that time, like you said, that's not the right time, because I'm focused on my friend. I'm
Right.
focused on losing my brother. I'm that's where I'm focused. So to get things in order, you are spot on. I just, that's so amazing. And I'm so glad that I was able to connect with you and to get on this podcast, because this is something that is vital, that people need to hear,
Very much
because
so.
we just don't know. We never know. And we don't want to wait till it's too late.
Right. We don't.
right?
And we don't have to. So the way to connect with me, I'm going to give you my website. My number is there. You can text me. You can email me. T for my first name, Norwood, NORWOOD .wearelegalshield.com. tnorwood.wearelegalshield.com. And I'd be more than happy to make a connect. Absolutely would love to connect with you, share with you how we can help you to move forward, and do it so that it is seamless, very simplistically, and it gets done. The folks in my church, they have services, and what I absolutely love is that I'm going to walk with you, and so I'm going to stay in touch with you, because again, we want to get it done. A lot of times people buy things but it doesn't get done. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And so I just had a member just email me this week when I just got back into town, and I was going through my email, and she emailed me and she said, Tanya, I'm so excited. She said my documents were returned to her from the law firm, and she says everything is in order. She had retired not too long ago, and she had started thinking about it, and she was connected to me through her financial advisor, and we talked, and I shared with her what she needed to do. And we just walked through that process. Now, all of those documents are in place. She has peace of mind, and she knows that things are in order. And it's just a wonderful feeling for me to just know that I'm helping people to do that. And the beauty of it was, as soon as we talk, and there's a questionnaire that makes it so easy, I share that with her. And like the next day, she's like, I'm done my questionnaire. Like, you are the poster child. When I say don't delay, she got it. She saw that it was very simplistic, and she actually did it. And so within a month or so, everything was done. And it only took that long because when the documents came back, she had a few things that she had questions about, needed some clarity. She was able to reach out to the attorney, all under this one umbrella fee, no additional charge. Like, we're not talking like $2,000, $3,500. Like, it can get very expensive. And we're talking, if you have a husband and you have a wife, you could be in a blended family, like my husband and I. You can do two separate, documents, all under one umbrella cost. And it's not even with a comma. And so I'm just delighted about that, just to help people have things in order, which is so important.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tanya, thank you so much for coming on Activate Your Next Level Mindset podcast. I really believe that this episode right here is going to bless somebody. It will be on Anchor, Spotify, and what else? Anchor, Spotify, and Apple. I'm sorry. Just took a blank. But yes, these will be on there, and I will put your links in the description in the podcast as well. And so, so thank you so much. And if I hear of anybody, like, hey, I'm sending them over to Tanya.
Please do, so we can help them. Be sent in order. Peace of mind. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. So guys, we are so just thankful for Tanya. And I will see you next week on Activate Your Next Level Mindset podcast. So once again, Tanya, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you guys on the next podcast.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everybody.
Welcome to Activate Your Next Level Mindset podcast. I am your host, Coach Paul Ibarra, helping you reframe your mindset and activate your purpose so that you can live your life of freedom.